Well, then welcome back to A Splash of Paint, brought to you in association with the SAA, Society for All Artists. Now it's time for our regular introducing feature where we shine our creative spotlight on another up-and-coming SAA professional artist. Today is the turn of versatile pastel artist and tutor Catherine Ingalls. So settle back and enjoy as we take a closer look at her individual style and see some of her wonderful techniques in action.
Now I'm going to show you how to do a spaniel's eye. I'll give you a few tips along the way and I'll just take you through where I've gone already. I've got some really good darks in here. I've used black to underpaint and then I've used Sennelier dark browns for the underpainting. Gradually coming forward with the lighter ones, and not always too light but bright, so that it brings the bone structure forward, because that's really important with the eye. It's all relative and the eye on its own won't look correct unless you've got the bone structure around it to make the eye recede. So I'm going to fill in now these little bits here and get the eyeball worked up, and I'll talk you through it and tell you which colours I use as I do it. So I'm going to use a little bit of black to just get under. It's very important to get the shadow of the eye underneath the eyelids there. That's why flash photography is no good to work from, both with human portraiture and animal portraiture, because it just takes all the shadows completely out. So I've underpainted in there with the black, and now I've got a very, very dark brown, which I'm actually going to put over the top there and bringing round the iris of the eye. So I don't want to go completely round, because if I make it too dark around here, then I won't be able to get my lights on. It'll affect the lighter pastels I'm putting on top. So this is a Sennelier one. I think it's number 456. It's a very, very dark brown, a very warm dark brown, because it's really important to have warm browns in the eyes. So I'm going with a little bit lighter one now. This one is 457. And I'm going to bring that right the way down there. Perhaps a little bit more of the darker brown, just to bring the two together. Just bring this down just a little bit further. And then we've got the, along the bottom lid here, just bring that up a little bit. It's kind of pink skin there on a spaniel. Then we've got the white of the eye, which doesn't really want doing in white, so purples are quite good, or very cool pinks also work. But again, we've got to look at the shadows. So I'm just going to use, I think it's a Unison pastel this, and it is A34. It's a really useful for both landscapes and animal work. So I just get that in there just to give the line of the iris around. I'm going to put the catch light in the eye now. The light's coming this way, so I'm just going to make a mark and just make sure I'm getting it in the right place and put a strong mark on it. The pastel I'm using again is a Unison, and it's grey 27. It's what I use instead of white. It's a very, very pale, bright yellow. Next to that, I'm going to put some blue, because it's quite a big eye, it's just going to make it look round if I just put a little bit of light at each side of that, and perhaps just a little bit of pale blue too, just to pop in there. If you can't get it to stick on, just take the pastel back and pop it on there. So the light's coming through the eye and travelling out through the iris, so it's going to reflect on the colour that's there. So we need to make that look really nice and rich, so the light's coming through and it's lightening things up. So this is a slightly lighter pastel. It's again another Sennelier one. Again another nice warm brown. I'm not quite sure just which colour this is. Just blend it in there to the pupil, because it doesn't want to be a very sharp line there. The next pastel I'm using is Brown Earth 12 with Unison. It's a really good colour for animals. It's quite a gingery colour, so it's really good for fur, and it's really good for bringing the light out in the eye. So I'm just putting thin layers on. And then we want something quite light to make it really sing. So remembering that the light's coming through here, we need to bring some light here. I'm not quite sure about the colour of this one, but it is a unison pastel. But it's not, you don't always want things that are light, but things that are bright. And again, just apply your finger, it'll just blend it in a wee bit. And then perhaps a sharp bit that's not been blended in, because that'll just make it sing. It doesn't, if you put your finger on it, it'll make it flat. So we've got the light working on there. We're making that look round now. To make it look even more shadowy underneath the lid, I've got a Sennelier dark blue. This is 463. Sennelier do the best of the darks. I have underpainted there with black, but black is very flat. So I always make sure that I'm putting something very dark of a colour over the top. And that'll give me an incredibly good shadow there for that eye. So we've got the white of the eye here. We've also got to make that look round. So this is a pale kind of mauvey, probably one of the blue violets in the Unison range. They're very useful. Just to bring out a little bit of light there, because we want this to be fairly forward, so the light will bring it forward. Perhaps a wee bit more. I just rest on my little finger as well, that keeps my hand steady. And a little bit of, this is a Conti, I've done a little bit of underpainting with the Conti sticks as well. They're nice and hard, they're really useful. I'm going to put a little bit of red just in there, just to warm that soft flesh in the corner of the eye. And then I have some quite cool pinks that I'm going to just go along the corner of the eye with. Now, because the light's coming through, it's going to bounce on the eyelid here, and we're going to get light on the bottom of the lid. So all this wants to be brought up. I've got a Schmincke pastel here. These are very soft and will sit on top of anything that you might have if you've got a lot of layers on. So I'll just bring up some light along that bottom lid. And here's important as well. As soon as I put light on here, it's going to bring the lid forward and the eyeball back. Just lighten the corners of the eye. And just blend that in a wee bit. That goes underneath the other eyelid. So just not have that too light. A little bit darker here. It's not catching quite as much of the light. And then we could do with something quite nice and dark just in here, just to sort of make that work too. And perhaps a little bit of it there as well, and perhaps down here, just to suggest the edge of the lid. It's all about making things come forward and go back. I would then go to work on the fur again, and just to bring out the bone structure here and here, because that's going to make the eye go back. I always try to work all over all of the time. Just want a little bit of light. Oops, a little bit lighter than that, I think. I've used the Schmincke one just to make that look wet in there. It's just a little bit too bright. Just knock it down with your finger if it's too bright. And perhaps one or two little bits of wet look along there too. And maybe we could just add a little bit of light on top of the lid too. Just darken this just to keep that curve working. Just take that back a little bit. Little bit of dark underneath there. Perhaps a little bit of a darker brown's better, just to make the upper lid, the underside lid stand out. So I think that perhaps just will just tell you how to develop the eye on an animal. It isn't just about doing the actual eyeball, but to work all the bone structure and the fur that surrounds the eye is really important too. Thank you.
Brilliant blending skills there, Catherine. Loved seeing the rich, warm shadows enhanced with just the right amount of brightness. And it's great to see the power of pastels. Well done. Well, it's time to join our regular resident bookworm now, Henry Moult, as he dips deep into the SAA library for another artistic offering. Today's book is Watercolour Tips and Tricks by Zoltan Szabo.
As far as I know, yes. Zoltan Szabo, he's sadly dead now, but was a big name in the last quarter or so of the 20th century.
Oh, crikey, so this book goes back a while then, does it?
I think it's early 90s as far as I remember. But you could say it's a lifetime's wisdom of painting. He's one of those American artists who doesn't live in the middle of the country where all the light is bright and all the colours are bright, and it doesn't translate. Whether he's actually part of the New England school, I'm not sure, but you do tend to get muted colours and...
I would say it's a fantastic book. I mean, even things that you wouldn't think of, sunlight on wood, it shows you how to get the dappled sunlight effect in a cobweb, which is brilliant.
Yes, it's based around specific themes. There are also techniques, so he will do wet and wet, and I think there's some dry brush in there.
And this one shows you the stages of doing the flowers.
Well, in fact, that's his glazing with staining colours is the actual subtitle there. So in each case, it's not just about the technique. It's about the technique used to produce a painting.
Yeah.
And I think actually that actually is probably the key to its success, the fact that it's not just ideas in the abstract, it's always moving towards a finished result.
It's quite a loose style of painting as well, which people obviously like that kind of work.
It's just nicely loose enough to be what you want, without being massive.
Yeah. It is a very nice book. It's the kind of book I'd probably buy because I think it's just useful. It's almost like having a Bible when you're painting, and that's always a nice thing to have in your studio, just to flick through and say, I've got to paint this particular style of thing, you know, and this book probably got it in there, because I guess it goes into things like it shows you how to paint weeds. I mean, how many books show you how to paint weeds? I mean, that's a cracking little thing.
Look at, yes, you wouldn't go out to paint. You wouldn't say, I'm going to go out today and paint some weeds.
Yeah.
But sometimes...
You never know with artists, you know.
Well, you're sitting there and you suddenly see just an amazing composition that's fallen into place.
Yeah.
And it makes sense just to take, what, half an hour?
Yeah.
And paint it.
It's great, and it's actually, when I started painting many, many years ago, I used to have books and sit down and just practice the little techniques. And that's how you learn. And even now teaching people, that's the kind of thing I do. I'd say, well, this is how you would do a tree, but just a tree. And it's nice to have that, actually.
Well, that's a book full
of
all of the things that you're saying that you want. I've always hesitated to say, oh, right, these are the 10 books that you should have as a core library.
Yeah.
But that's certainly one of them.
Excellent. Thanks again, Henry. We'll see you next time. Thanks for that, Henry. It's easy to see why Zoltan's classic remains a firm favourite, keeping watercolour painting simple, straightforward and fun. Well, folks, it's time for our final break now, but join us in part 4 when SAA professional artist Marilyn Alice returns to put the finishing touches to today's Try Your Hand At project, and I'll be helping solve a few more of your artistic dilemmas. We'll see you very soon.